is essentially a therapeutic community that's embedded into Tameside, and really it is an end-to-end process whereby you can come in at one end, street homeless, with no roof over your head, nothing, and then you can go through the process and ultimately end up in a property and working for us and giving back to the community. We do a 24-week residential programme. It's split into what we call primary and secondary treatment. Primary treatment is 12 weeks, and that's in this building that we're sat in at the moment. This is Vernon House. It's a very structured programme. It's quite intense. We do a lot of group therapy, but then mixed in with that therapy is lots of other holistic and wellness type stuff. So we'll do, for example, Friday afternoon they do a sound bath. Wednesdays they go to equine therapy, and they also go to the gym twice a week as well. We don't talk about drugs or drink, which might be quite surprising to most people because we're a drug and alcohol rehab. We talk about what's the problem, and then it's all this internal discomfort, it's shame, it's guilt, it's regret, it's abandonment, loneliness. It's all of that stuff that whirls around inside of them, and they need outside solutions to ordinarily deal with it. But I think ANEW supports them to find healthier ways to deal with themselves.
ANEW come about, there was 3 of us at the time. There was myself, Lucy, and a guy called Nick Newman, who sadly is no longer with us. And it came from we've all worked together for a long time in residential rehabs across the northwest, and I think we ended up in a position where we weren't working, and we had an idea of doing something nearer home, local, and taking all that expertise we'd had from working across the northwest, really, setting up services around abstinence-based services. So we come together and we decided we were going to set up an organisation, and Nick come up with ANEW, and for me that at the time that wasn't a word. We put it into Google and it came back as typically a more positive way. So ANEW was born. For the last decade we've had our heads down just getting on with the job, developing the service. It's a very large service now. We have about 130 people living with us. I think the next is the Health and Wellbeing Centre. That we haven't named it that yet, but it's going to look like that. The partnership with the kind of art and creativity bit around Tameside.
So behind us is Denton, former Conservative club, and the building's been developed into a wellness centre by ANEW, our partners, and we've been supported, we're very happy to say, by GMCA's Collaborate Fund, £50,000 towards delivering some legacy from our current work with ANEW and Portraits of Recovery. The legacy is that we'll continue to work with Joe Hartley, but focused on the space behind us to set up an artist co-production residency space. We're also going to connect in recovery communities from Manchester, Oldham and Stockport. Alongside the development of the building, we're going to support also the development of a community growing garden. And so quite a holistic approach that will be really in keeping with the vision for the new wellness centre and ANEW's ANEW approach to recovery.
When we first met Joe, we were quite lucky in the sense that we had a choice who became the artist, and we'd met Joe right from the beginning, you know, not only me but everyone I spoke to. I asked for feedback from the team. Joe just had a way with him that people felt relaxed, they took to him quite easy. And what I particularly liked about Joe, you know, is that it weren't, I imagined that we were all going to be sat in front of an easel trying our best to paint this masterpiece, when that's really not our thing. But we've done lots of interesting projects. An example of that, we've made teapots. And what I particularly like, what particularly stood out and what Joe recommended is, he's not going to tell us what we should be doing. We're not all going to make a teapot and then see who's got the best one and who's got the worst one. Things like somebody made the lid, somebody made the spout, somebody made the handle, and we put it together, and it's everybody's teapot. But it's teamwork, it lets people be creative. People in early recovery have creative minds, they've often used it for the wrong reasons. But here, they've been able to use it in a productive way.
My name is Joe Hartley, and I'm a designer working in Manchester and Stockport. I work in lots of different materials and mediums. I'm interested in spaces and how people engage with those spaces through making of some sort. So I've been working over the last 4 months, 5 months with ANEW, which is a recovery organisation in Tameside. I've been working towards an exhibition at Castlefield Gallery. Really early on, one of the sessions that I ran, I wanted to share some of my enthusiasm for working in clay, you know. So I thought one of the earliest sessions that I'll run just a clay workshop. I thought it would be quite fun, you know, every time I go around there, I'm always offered a cup of tea, so I was like, we'll make some teapots. And the way we did it, everybody made 2 pinch pots, which is like, you know, really primitive way of making something. You don't need any tools other than your hands. And I threw a bit of a spanner in the works, or a bit of a curveball. After everybody had made the body of the teapot, I got them to pass it round. Then when we started putting the spouts and handles on, everybody put it on someone else's. So by the time we'd finished the session, nobody could really lay claim over each of the teapots. It was a real shared endeavour. The idea was also to produce some subjects, so the following week I'd put like a photography session in where I was going to teach them how to use some old medium format cameras, and I thought it was quite nice to use the teapots as the subjects. And the guys who were doing the photography workshop weren't the same people who did the thing, so already we were beginning to spread the activity and the input across different stages of recovery. So we ran this session to photograph the teapots, but because they'd been transported over to another house in the transit, loads of the limbs fell off. So during the session, we had this idea that it would be quite nice, well, we don't need the teapots anymore. We're here, we've got limbs. So we began to act the teapots out, and it produced this lovely set of about 20 photos of everybody who was in the room acting out teapots. And then the next session, we were developing it, and someone came up with the idea that it would be fun to make the teapots off the back of the photograph. So we were going to go back to teapot. So that's something that's happened. We've gone from teapot to photograph, and photograph back to teapot again. So through the project, we've been spending time in lots of different spaces. We spent time at Yellowhammer in Stockport. We spent time altogether otherwise in Manchester. A lot of the residentials that ANEW have across Tameside. But we've also spent time at my allotment, which is in Levenshulme. We've done lots of different activity there. Been looking after the chickens, digging up potatoes. But one of the things we've been doing is weeding out mare's tail, which is it's a weed that we've got down there. It grows everywhere and everyone absolutely hates it. And I began to look into it and like read up a little bit about it. And I didn't know that it has a really high silica content. So we started to sort of test burning it and producing glazes on some tests. So we've now developed this range of glazes using the mare's tail, which are going to glaze the teapots that we've made. There's a big thing about connection in recovery. Quite a lot of people say, I don't know if it's an official line, but people have been saying, you know, people say the opposite of addiction is connectivity. And I think hopefully that comes in the show. There's lots of different things in the show that if you glanced at would seem unconnected, but actually if you look a little bit closer, everything's connected. So 10 Measly Seconds is a really early piece that we did, and it was, I guess like the idea of it was kind of like getting on board, and I guess like me beginning to test the kind of like the scope for what we could do as a group. So I've got this thing that I do called 10 Measly Seconds, where I use the 10-second timer on cameras to set the camera up, pull the trigger, and then it takes me 10 seconds to go and do something. And usually it's me on my own, but I just thought it was nice to kind of bring that in. So there's a canal bridge which is really near Vernon House, and we positioned the camera on one side of the bank of the canal and set the timer off, and everybody ran round at the same time. And it's just a photograph of a moment of a group of people giving something a go and going for it. As part of the show, we've done a gallery garden. We've taken on some space outside of the gallery, and we've got a range of unusual things, well, unusual for the city centre anyway, growing out there in 4 beds that have all got, we've grown from seed, and we've planted seeds with the recovery community, and we've kind of chosen plants from their, like how interesting they are from a life cycle point of view or their adaptability point of view. So we've got some unusual things out there, lots of different endives, which are like a bitter lettuce. So Horsepower is, I think, the last piece of work that we produced for the show with the ANEW recovery community. And the interesting thing about it, I think we probably produced the piece. It's the biggest piece in the show, but we also produced it in, I think, probably under an hour. So the fact that we were able to produce something so big, so quickly, was because we've spent 6 months nurturing, a really strong working relationship. So it's a botanical illustration of the plant horsetail, which has become a bit of a motif in the show. It's featured in the garden, and it's featured scientifically in the glaze that we're using on the ceramics.
This project has been in development for 5 or 6 years. It comes out of conversations, and essentially what I was interested in is where art meets recovery and recovery meets art. And in this instance, a treatment context, and working with artist Joe Hartley. And I believe, what's really important is trust, openness and honesty. And if you get the right match, this magic happens. And that's why we have this incredible exhibition today. A New Way to Peel an Orange is also one part of CHAORDIC, and CHAORDIC is a 3-year commissioning strand which we initiated. And CHAORDIC means managed chaos, which is a perfect way to describe what recovery is itself, because it's not a linear process. It's also part of Recoverist Month, and what Recoverist Month is the September long programme which we launched 3 years ago now. In simple terms, a new annual awareness month, a bit like Black History Season or Pride. And it marks International Recovery Month, which was set up in the States in the 80s. And at that point was to celebrate the work of people who worked in the treatment sector, but now has become around kind of a means of celebrating recovery.
One of the things I really hope that people take away from the show is just a new perspective on recovery. I think that a lot of the discourse around recovery is quite negative, it's quite degrading and stigmatizing, and I feel that this exhibition challenges that, because part of the recovery journey is around community and connection, and there's a lot of humour and joy that comes through that, and that really comes through in the work as well. It's very light-hearted and fun, and although there are serious elements to people's journeys, I think it was really important to capture those relationships and the characters involved in the project. So I'm hoping that when people come to this exhibition, they will get a bit of a sense of what that community feels like and the joy that comes from that.
I think that if people can see that people are changing their lives, and the outdoors, nature, planting stuff, art is a part of that, it broadens people's minds, and it also shows people that people in addiction, there's all different kinds of people with all qualities. They're not bad people, and it gives the clients a chance to sort of show who they are, the sense of community, the creativity. And I think certain people get to discover themselves, which that in itself just brings a positive energy around the whole thing.
When people hear addiction, they just picture these homeless people, horrible people, and we're not like that. And Addicts in Recovery is probably one of the strongest people around, because we work a programme, and hopefully they can feel the love we've got for each other and the love for ourselves, and also that we're not useless people that people think sometimes. If you can put us together, we're really resourceful, and we can make beautiful things to better ourselves and everyone else. So I just hope it changes their view a little bit, and just that we've got a purpose and we're valued in society when we're doing what we need to do for ourselves.
I hope that they take away that how connection and doing something different that you've never tried can change your life. Totally change your life. You never would have caught me doing anything, making pots and feeding chickens and even it's just been so eye-opening. So I hope they can take away that it's good to try something new, and it gets you connected, just connecting and doing things great out there, and it don't have to cost money.
There's a stigma, I think, with addiction and stuff, and I think, when you see, just normal people, everyday people, just getting their lives back together and you know, trying to come together and create something. And I think that side of it, I think there's a message in there, subliminal, you know.
Getting yourself into treatment and changing and growing is what life is all about. And art can really help you do that because it gets you out of yourself. When I was on the streets and I was drawing because I had to distract myself from the pain I was in. My brothers died in lockdown, and it was one of the things that I couldn't sit in my house, so I ended up living on the streets, and I was drawing because it distracted me from the thinking all the time about what was going on for me. It would be nice for the public to see the change in people and how art can help you to get other people involved and give you that little bit of get up and go to do something different.
Yeah, I think some of the things that we've done with him, like I started in primary and then I've gone into secondary and now I'm in like third stage, and some of it's really basic stuff, but it's really quite easy and rewarding as well. Like the stuff that I've done with Joe that I want to do with my children, you know, and it's dead simple to do. So I really appreciate what he's done with us as well.
So what I hope people get from the exhibition is a feel of what ANEW is. I really think you need to come here and feel what ANEW is and experience it as a whole. I'm kind of hoping that because it's like bits of this and bits of that, bits of the other, that they'll get a feeling of what ANEW is. You know, it's not a thinking exercise, is it? It's a feeling.